The possible reasons behind the invasion of Afghanistan in 2001 are starting to come forward. Now, we are all aware that wars happen for profit. They happen for gaining access to cheaper natural resources. They also happen for gaining access to markets. But in the specific case of Afghanistan, what has been the driving force behind it? In the case of Afghanistan, I believe it is rare earth metals. Now, Afghanistan has one of the largest untapped potential pools of rare earth metals, and this was even acknowledged by the Soviets during their occupation of Afghanistan. Now, why is this so important? Because of the falling rate of profit. Minerals are a big part of the constant capital portion of the cost of production, and it is always necessary to continually reduce the cost, or at least equalize it to a point, to try to avoid the increased costs, thus spurring on the falling rate of profit. And as I said, Afghanistan is a prime place to get a hold of those resources. Now, here's some information that has been put forward. In 2001, mining operations in California accounted for all domestic mine production of rare earth metals. Molycorp, a wholly owned subsidiary of Unocal Corporation, mined basanite, a rare earth fluorocarbonate mineral, by open pit methods at Mountain Pass, California. The mine was estimated to be 5,000 metric tons of rare earth oxide in concentrates. Molycorp's parent company established $87 million for the environmental remediation of 4 sites: an oil field, an oil refinery, and the closed lanthanide processing sites at Washington, PA, and York, PA. Rare earth prices either increased or were essentially unchanged in 2001 compared to 2000. The following estimates of prices were based on trade data from various sources or were quoted by rare earth producers. All rare earth prices remained nominal and subject to change without notice. The competitive pricing policies in effect in the industry caused most rare earth metal products to be quoted on a daily basis. U.S. imports and exports of rare earths declined slightly in 2001 compared to those of 2000. U.S. exports totaled 9.27 million kilograms, valued at $50.1 million, a 2.4% decrease in quantity and a 14.4% decrease in value compared to those of 2000. Imports totaled 27.1 million kilos, gross weight valued about $140 million, a 5.9% in quantity and a 1.6% decrease in value compared to those of 2000. Now, it wasn't until about 2006 the U.S. Geological Survey Project of Afghanistan was able to go in and use concrete scientific methods to determine exactly how much in rare earth minerals are there. Now, of course, because there was a war going on and the Taliban was still relatively strong in some regions. Now, what they determined that there was about $1 trillion worth of the metals just waiting to be mined out. The surveys verified all the major Soviet findings. Afghanistan may hold 60 million tons of copper, 2.2 billion tons of iron ore, 1.4 million tons of rare earth elements such as lanthanum, cerium, and neodymium, and loads of aluminum, gold, silver, zinc, mercury, and lithium. For instance, the Kanishan carbonate deposit in Afghanistan's Helmand province is valued at $89 billion, full as it is with rare earth elements. Now, it wasn't until 2010 that the U.S. Department of Defense, the Business and Stability Organization, came upon these numbers and became interested in them. Now, this is the group that's charged with the duty of rebuilding Afghanistan and making it quote-unquote business-friendly. In other words, the very specific part of the U.S. military that serves the interests of big capital. Their estimates say that there's $908 billion worth of minerals. Now, the Afghan government itself has a very strange estimate of about $3 trillion. So the question is before us, why the sudden interest in rare earth minerals in 2010? Well, the reason is quite simple. You see, the largest producer of rare earth metals is China. And in June 2010, they restructured their import-export scheme that drastically raised the cost of rare earth metals for other countries. Rare earth elements prices spiked after China enacted a 40% export quota cut in July 2010, peaking at record highs in mid-2011 as of December 2012. Rare earth elements prices had receded, but still remained at least 80% and as much as 600% above pre-July 2010 levels. Now we're beginning to see why this happened. Now we're beginning to see why this was such a big deal in 2010 and why the United States government started to pay so much attention to it. Now, why did this happen? Because of competition. How did it happen? Because China controls the largest supply of rare earth elements. The problem is that the manufacturing facilities with the necessary expertise to refine these rare minerals still reside in just one country. You guessed it, China. And this isn't expected to change anytime soon due to regulatory hurdles, financing for such facilities, and technical difficulties in poorer countries where the new mines are located. While production at rare earth element mines outside China are about to come online soon, initial REE processing outside China will remain limited because of technical difficulties, regulatory hurdles, and capital costs associated with the startup of new or dormant processing capabilities and facilities, Clapper said. What's more, China will also continue to dominate production of the most scarce and expensive REEs, known as heavy REEs, which are critical to defense systems, he said. This contest for rare earth elements is a part of the huge global imperialist drive. This also explains why it was in 2010 U.S. President Barack Obama ordered a surge of U.S. troops into Afghanistan. It is the increased price of rare earth elements, I believe, is what spurred the U.S. to go on further and try to get a hold or complete control of the country sooner than expected. With this situation, China, because of its state investment in mining, has a very, very dominant position within these rare earth elements and does have the capability to increase that price on many global consumers of it, one of those being the United States. And as they have so mentioned, it is a really important part of their defense spending. It should also be noted that Canada has a very large hand in mining internationally and has one of the worst human rights records of any country in the world for international mining. This explains why, despite overwhelming objection to the war in Afghanistan, the various prime ministers who have overseen the Afghan occupation have continued to give such ardent support for it. Because Canada is such a large player in terms of mining internationally. Thus we can see very clearly it is the falling rate of profit, the drive for profits in competition, that is pushing a further occupation of Afghanistan long after it should have ended due to its sheer ineffectiveness. We know the occupation of Afghanistan is going to fail, and we are left scratching our heads and wondering why they're continuing to do so. It is that need to keep up the rate of profit and through sheer competition based on competing global interests that is pushing that occupation even further. It is the very mechanisms of capitalism itself that's driving this horribly bloody, awful war that is frankly only really punishing the regular people of Afghanistan. Now all of this is to get products out into the public, for them to be sold, to keep up the rate of profit so that it doesn't fall. Well, who's buying these products? Who's benefiting from keeping the low cost of production? It's first world people. And even in particular, first world working class people. We benefit tremendously from this war, this increased rate of exploitation being carried out. And we know very well that it's not the third world worker that's going out and buying a new iPhone every year, or buying a new iPad, or any of the innumerable, electronics that are sold every year. Not to mention his connection with, every other product on the planet. We, despite the protestations by many first world communists, are benefiting tremendously from this increased rate of exploitation, which only speaks more to the relevance of third worldist theory. It is not until we reach the understanding that we need to reorganize production globally. We need a radical global redistribution of not just wealth, but also the method of production according to human need and not the profits of corporations. And I'm not just saying not just transnational corporations, not just large corporations, all business in general. It is that very mechanism which drives it. Competition needs to be ended. There needs to be a production of use values according to human need, not exchange values according to the needs of profit. And that is what we need to do. And this is what I believe has been the driving force, not just behind the real reason for the invasion of Afghanistan, but the continued unjust occupation of it. Thank you for watching. Please comment and rate the video. If you liked it, hit subscribe or check out some of these other great videos. If you wish, share it on social media. While you're at it, why don't you follow me on Twitter? And if you got time, go on over to the MRN bookstore and check out some of the latest books available.